What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about the Dewback species. They were designated as non-sentient creatures, meaning that they're the Star Wars equivalent of animals, and not on the cusp of being sentient, what we would call intelligent or self-aware, like with the semi-sentient Kowakian monkey lizards that had members that acted just like regular animals, and others that could actually speak different languages. They had an average height of 2 meters, about the same height as a Wookiee, and with a length of 4.5 meters, it was as long as Jabba the Hutt plus Yoda. Their average weight was 815 kilograms, or 1,797 pounds, making them about half the weight of a Rancor, and about the same weight as a small black rhino. All of their skin color ranged from a tan to green, but in some very rare cases, they could have some red and blue scales as well. They were omnivores, eating the small grasses that grew on Tatooine, and the occasional womp rats. Though most Dewbacks were considered to be solitary animals, they actually stayed in packs, and would walk in single file lines of 2 to 5, where they could defend themselves from predators during their daily search for food and moisture. Because they are cold-blooded reptiles, Dewbacks would be seen sleeping from the evening to daybreak, where they would all be huddled together to conserve heat. At night, when the cool air blew over this large mass of heat-retaining lizards, dew formed on their backs, and they would lick this up off of each other as their first source of water for the day. When this was seen by human colonists, they gave this creature the name Dewback. The scales that covered its body had developed to block out excess heat from Tattoo 1 and Tattoo 2, a perfect balance that allowed them to be active without overheating, while still letting them retain enough heat during the night, a combination that also worked to allow the Dewback to be able to survive at least a couple days without water. Though most reptiles are solitary, researchers believe that it was because of their Dewback breakfast that they seemed to have closer bonds than most other lizards, but those that had been kicked out of the pack would have to use their sharp claws and teeth to dig for roots or tear apart desert sage, the plant variant, not the hermit, and eat animals like scurries and womp rats. As for predators, a pack of Dewbacks had a better time scaring off their foes and guarding their eggs, though woodoos were notorious egg thieves that would steal from all kinds of species on Tatooine, and in terms of a violent death, the adult Dewback had to worry about the highly territorial Krayt Dragon, and in terms of a slow death, there were swarms of Skeddos that could kill a Dewback overnight by sucking out all of its vital fluids. Coruscant biologists that have studied the Dewback have noted that they appear to be distant cousins of the Thuvasaurs, which were imported to Tatooine at some point in the past, and that the Dewbacks themselves can be broken down into 4 subspecies. Lesser Dewbacks were the most common, mostly seen on the desert regions, and they contained a calm demeanor, which made it easy to tame them. The mountain Dewback had the same disposition, but as its name suggests, stayed mostly in the mountainous regions of Tatooine. Grizzled Dewbacks were the largest variant, and with this greater size came a greater appetite, which made them more aggressive and better at hunting down prey. In addition to their behavioral differences, they could also be distinguished by their patchy colors of scales. The most rare subspecies was the Cannibal Dewback, which were considered to be impossible to domesticate, given their extremely aggressive disposition, and were known to hunt down and kill settlers, and eat their newly hatched young if no other food source could be found. And speaking of hatchlings, the Dewback's mating ritual was fairly simple, with a male rolling on his back in the sun to expose the colors of his belly, since when directly exposed to the sun, these scales would change to shades of blue, and after the females got themselves impregnated, they would lay their eggs in holes that they dug in the sand. For camouflage, the eggs were a nice sandy color, and about the size of a human fist, and would normally hatch in only half a year. Newly born Dewbacks would then go out on their own, and would naturally group up to form packs. It was possible to domesticate an adult Dewback, but because once they were born, their mothers didn't stick around to defend them, it became a lucrative trade to search the deserts for newborns so that they could be raised as mounts or beasts of burden from childhood, making them incredibly docile and loyal. These pet Dewbacks usually lived a good life in captivity, but during breeding time, their owner would have to leave their cages open and allow them to come and go as they pleased, because not doing so resulted in Dewbacks desperately attempting to claw and ram their way out, resulting in serious injuries and sometimes death. We can only assume that this was also a problem for Dewbacks on other planets, as some were known to be exported to the sandy worlds of Brika and Benjarin. Though of course much slower than a Landspeeder, There were a lot of reasons why a Dewback was a better option. First off, they were much cheaper, with an entry-level speeder like the X34 priced at 10,550 credits, whereas you could get a group of Dewbacks priced at 6 for 16,000 credits, or 2,667 credits each. To make it even better, they also had a much lower maintenance cost, as they required no fuel, just table scraps and some water, and couldn't get clogged up by the sand, and wouldn't overheat. Unlike the Bantha, they weren't afraid of sandstorms, and could even get up to a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, or 31 miles per hour, about the same speed as a galloping horse. And perhaps one of their best features was a scent that they released, which repelled sand ticks, which were these baseball-sized bugs that burrowed in the sand and crawled onto travelers that walked by in order to suck their blood, something like leeches of the desert. It is for all of these reasons that the Empire used Dewbacks when patrolling cities on Tatooine, and even when searching the desert for rebels. And a bit unlike horses was the fact that people loved to eat Dewbacks, and their hides were often used as a source of leather. People would wear Dewback clothing to popular Mos Eisley grills or parties at Jabba's palace, where baby Dewback ribs were an incredibly tasty meal. This love of Dewback dinner was one of the few things that human settlers and Tusken raiders agreed on, but the only problem was that the Sand People had no issues with eating someone's pet Dewback, and put many owners through the psychological pain of being robbed, combined with the knowledge that Fido was now being marinated. So that's it for the Dewback species, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. In the original films, the Dewbacks were mechanized, life-size puppets that stopped working when filming on set in Tunisia, and later in the 1997 special edition of A New Hope, the Dewbacks were completely computer-generated. Different manuals over the years have said that they were just herbivores, and then eventually omnivores, and there are other inconsistencies where they claim that they could lay thousands of eggs at a time, with other sources saying that it was only 50 to 80 eggs. And the original prop actually had patches of hair on it, and this small frill around the neck, which ended up being removed before filming. But that's it for the Dewback species. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, if you're ever stuck in the desert, don't be afraid to lick a Dewback, and the Force will be with you, always.